better place to begin the college basketball season than the Big Apple? St. John's fans ready to raise the curtain on a brand new team, but without their head coach. While Steve Lavin recovers from surgery, interim Mike Dunlap and St. John's meet William&Mary now. Welcome to the 2K Sports Classic, benefiting coaches versus cancer. William&Mary meets St. John's here at Carnesecca Arena in Queens, New York. Hi again, everyone. Bob Wischusen alongside Len Elmore. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, not just for the beginning of the 2K Sports Classic, but the beginning of the college basketball season on our ESPN networks. This is game one of 1,450 plus games we'll bring you throughout what should be an amazing college basketball season. And Len, tonight a great place to start. This is not just a brand new season that begins for St. John's, but really a brand new team.
Well, again, another season of the unknown. Last year, Steve Lavin inherited a veteran squad, but really didn't know what to expect. Yet 21 wins, 12 in the Big East. This year, it's just the opposite. A lot of first-year players, young and inexperienced, and equally as important, Steve Lavin, the eye of the storm, is not here, hasn't been able to coach yet as he recovers from prostate cancer.
It's one of the most heralded recruiting classes in the nation, but they are without their head coach. This was something that was made public to all of us at the end of last season. It began, though, in September of 2010 when Coach Lavin was diagnosed with prostate cancer. He coached all season. After the year, the condition was made public, and then in consultation with his doctors, they investigated all possible courses of treatment, but surgery was determined to be the best option. Steve Lavin had that surgery on October 6th, and his return date is still unknown. Johns without their head coach tonight. They have a very young team going up, Len Elmore, against a veteran William&Mary group. They return over 90% of their production from last year.
Yeah, but William&Mary is pretty much banged up, missing some key players. Their best player, Quinn McDowell, just back for 5 days following a 6-week layoff due to injuries as well. But they are an experienced bunch.
And for St. John's, Malik Stiff, he is the only scholarship player from last season to return this year. Nuruddin Lindsay, D'Angelo Harrison, Mo Hart was part of a heralded group of freshmen that have been brought in.
Yeah, when you talk about Malik Stiff, remember, the only scholarship player from last year. He's the guy with experience. He's the guy that has to be the coach on the floor for his young mates.
Brian O'Connell, Bill McCarthy, and Doug Grant, the officiating crew tonight, as we get the 2011-2012 college basketball season underway here at St. John's. And this, in the Big East, could be one of the most intriguing stories all year. How do these freshmen handle life at the start of the season without their head coach and not having really any experience up and down their bench?
Well, they expect to play an up-tempo game, maybe a little bit too much. Oftentimes, you'll see this young team, and I've seen them in exhibition a couple of games, one pass and a shot. You know, they've got to be able to work the ball around, but transition is their strength, and particularly on the defensive end as they play the matchup zone.
First shot of the game by Julian Boatner goes down for William&Mary, and a quick triple gives the Tribe the early lead.
See Stiff with the ball, trying to help his team exhibit a little bit of patience against this zone that William&Mary is playing. 2-3 zone, they've got to be able to move the ball.
Harkless finds the loose ball, can't connect. Achua loses it out of bounds, so it goes over to the Tribe with the early 3-0 lead. Well, the job of replacing Steve Lavin, at least for the time being, falls to his lead assistant, Mike Dunlap. And prior to St. John's, he was an associate head coach at Oregon, Arizona. He was a great Division II head coach for years in Denver. That led him to the bench of George Karl for 3 seasons with the Nuggets as well. So he has a lot of experience at different levels.
Yeah, that experience has made Mike very capable as a head coach. But nevertheless, this is Steve Lavin's team. And when you have a guy who is a head coach, he's got to make in-game decisions, got to work on instinct. And many times that'll be the difference there.
Driving baseline and drawing the foul is God's gift Achua. He will go to the free throw line.
And again, not to take anything away from Mike Dunlap, this is Steve Lavin's team. Those instinctive moves are going to be effective if Steve Lavin's on the bench. And it's Tony Shaver right here, a guy who, you know, is a graduate of North Carolina, had some success over the years in the Colonial Athletic Association. You know, had some tough times with injuries last year. His experienced guys didn't really come through except for Quinn McDowell. But the good news is that the younger players last year had an opportunity to gain experience, and this year they're the experienced bunch.
Achua, the junior college transfer from Erie Community College, the Nigerian import. 1 of 2 at the free throw line, and that the first point of the season for St. John's.
When you see full court pressure, St. John's will do this because of their superior athleticism, and again, hoping to push the tempo.
They get the turnover. Nuruddin Lindsay trapped under the basket, lost it on the way up. Eldring in transition. He's fouled by Malik Stiff.
Well, one thing the full court pressure has done is quicken the pace. Last year, William&Mary only averaged about 64 points a game, so they're more of a deliberate offensive style. St. John's obviously wants to push the ball up and down the floor, make good use of their athletes. But the last possession of St. John's, you saw a bit of that inexperience, being trapped under the basket, not able to kick the ball back outside, rather forcing the shot up, and obviously possession changed hands.
Well, you mentioned most of William&Mary's front line is banged up tonight. Outside of Quinn McDowell, he's the only player that would get regular minutes. Last year, Heldring only averaged about 7 minutes a game. He gets the start tonight because they're down 3 front court players. St. John's might be the type of team, though, that William&Mary could still compete against. St. John's, the big question with them this year, they have little to no size, especially without some of the players, and we'll get into this a little bit later on, that were declared ineligible. Some of the freshmen for Steve Lavin that are hopefully going to become eligible in the second semester this year, as Harkless can't hit inside.
Well, it's certainly going to be a learning process for the first-year players for St. John's, as they understand not only how to play this game on this level, but how to play with each other.
The Red Storm have missed their first 4 field goal attempts.
Bob, when you talk about missing their first 4 field goal attempts, and there's a jump shot by D'Angelo Harrison, the guy who has a green light when he has an open look. That was the first real open look that St. John's had. Those other 4 shots were highly contested. You're looking at a veteran team in William&Mary trying to find a way to beat this matchup zone, and they're moving the ball nicely.
Pretty floater by Kendricks Brown, the senior. Floats one home. Achua runs the floor and finds Harrison. That's off the mark. In transition, it's Boatner. That 3 comes up a little bit short, but Quinn McDowell, the offensive rebound. And he double dribbled.
Well, you mentioned it, the last possession for St. John's, you said Achua running the floor, and that's his strength. On the defensive end right here, though, nice job by Brown, just recognizing the opportunity in a one-on-one situation. Against this matchup, you don't get a lot of one-on-one situations because St. John's helps very well.
Tom Schultz comes on for the first time as McDowell will sit down. Julian Boatner also shaken up, as you can see, so he sits down for the first time, and a very heralded freshman, 3 in green, Marcus Thornton, Maryland Gatorade Player of the Year last year in high school.
And you took a look at that graphic right there, replacing over 95% of scoring and rebounding is what these young St. John's players have to do. And that is the biggest question mark. Nice job right there.
Achua muscles his way inside and lays it home.
Achua may be 6'8", trying to play in the post, and in college basketball these days, that might be a bit undersized, but he's got an 87 6'8" wingspan, strong inside, and you saw a nice job with the drop step.
Britt bumped by Lindsay. They'll step aside and talk when we come back about the St. John's recruiting class and what's missing. There's a lot of production out there. Sports Classic, benefiting Coaches versus Cancer, is brought to you by 2K Sports, creators of the best-selling and top-rated 2K12 video game in stores now, rated E for everyone. And Serve from American Express. Serve makes moving money between friends easier. Visit serve.com/ESPN. Back here at the 2K Sports Classic, St. John's trails William&Mary by a point, and St. John's incoming recruiting class. According to ESPNU, our ratings, number 3 in the country, behind only Duke and Kentucky. Tremendous talent brought in by Steve Lavin. Now, Sir Dominic Pointer, Mo Harkless, D'Angelo Harrison, all in the top 64 of our ESPNU Top 100. They're here. In addition, there are 3 more top 100 players that are not here. Jakar Sampson, Norvell Pell, and Amir Garrett, all declared academically ineligible before the season. Now, the deal with all of these guys, they are all technically now back in prep school and are technically now have to be re-recruited by St. John's, and that process is underway. Steve Lavin is trying to get these players to come back to St. John's once again, and it certainly looks as if there's a very good chance that Amir Garrett and Norvell Pell, at the least, are going to commit back to St. John's. Jakar Sampson, a little bit more of a gray area, but players that right now are trying to get their academics in order and might be eligible for the second semester, and maybe even by December, before the Big East schedule begins. 2 more top 100 players, if not 3, could join Steve Lavin's roster.
Yeah, it's as though their national letter of intent was never signed. Their commitments don't count. All because, again, summer classes taken by these guys weren't accepted by the NCAA. So obviously they have a chance. If they can qualify for the spring semester, they can start practicing around December 19th and even begin playing December 21st if they recommit. St. John's doing a better job exercising some patience right now. Need to look inside. Achua needs to stay on the block, give his guys an opportunity inside, but no shortage of athleticism as St. John's will crash that offensive glass.
Over and over again. Harkless and Achua keep it alive on the offensive glass. And Mo Harkless eventually draws the foul. Tom Shaw called for the personal, but this is some athleticism in the paint.
Yeah, and you know, they get good position against the zone, and that's what you need to do. Now, if somebody could just, with 2 hands, grab possession and power up, they'd probably been much better served. But as we said, no shortage of athleticism on that front line.
Now, you should check your cell phone. I'll check mine.
Text monster?
There's no question. The text monster is alive and well. We've been told. Now, Steve Lavin, we know, is watching the game, as right now he is continuing his recovery. They have not put a timetable on when he's going to be back on the sideline, just to make sure that his recovery is complete before he starts to reassume his duties as the full-time head coach. But those thumbs are working overtime as he is constantly in touch, not only with his players, not only with the coaching staff, but also with us, as we'll be getting texts tonight from Steve Lavin while he watches his team open up their season. Don Pointer can't hit, and then the foul is committed by Pointer in the backcourt.
Well, we talked about St. John's and their defense. The strength of this young team, utilizing that athleticism, is getting into transition, off of steals, off of rebounds. But you saw Pointer compound his missed layup with the error and fouling.
Takeaway. Harkless finds Green. Nice ball movement for the throwdown inside by Achua.
And this is what they're at their best. Taking the ball away and pushing it up the floor. And how about the length of guys like Green and like Pointer out there at the front of that pressure, getting hands on the ball and deflecting. Makes it very difficult for the offensive team to get any rhythm.
McDowell finds a soft spot in the paint, though, and ties the game at 9. back under 10. Harrison with the shot clock down to 5. Green pulls up and hit the backboard first again. And the rebound pulled down by Quinn McDowell. Rum wide open. He knocks down a 3. And William&Mary is back on top. In case you're wondering, by the way, who's wearing number 25 in green, that's Julian Boatner, who's normally number 2. He went to the bench and was cut and was forced to change his jersey.
Got to get the ball inside against the matchup that William&Mary's employing. You got to go inside out. They had some success going into a chore. But right now, St. John's passing the ball around the perimeter, not getting the open looks that they would like. Inside out serves them much better.
Unable to make the catch inside was Andrew Pavlov. Harrison a pull-up. That's a little too strong, and Boatner has the rebound. And he wants to slow things down for the Tribe.
As the season moves on, St. John's is going to have to find a way to hit these open looks, particularly from beyond the arc. In their exhibition game against St. Mary's, Division III team, just 1 of 12 from beyond the arc, and they struggled. And I expect teams to really sag on St. John's, try to take away driving lanes and force St. John's to prove that they can knock down some threes.
Harkless, there's an open 3, and that one connects.
That'll go a long way in extending the defense, making it a lot easier for the slashers of St. John's to get into the heart of opposition defense, but you got to be able to knock down those open looks.
Timeout on the floor. We are tied at 12. Some open looks for St. John's. Mo Harkless, arguably the top recruit of the incoming class for Steve Lavin. And that's the reason why he can hit from downtown. Welcome back to Carnesecca Arena. Bob Wischusen and Len Elmore at the 2K Sports Classic, benefiting Coaches versus Cancer. William&Mary and St. John's tied early on. And ESPN, the home court of college hoops, brings you a great night of basketball on ESPNU. 2 games on Friday night. It begins at 6 Eastern with Coach K's record climb preview. Then at 7, UConn begins defense of their national title against Columbia. And then at 9, Duke hosts Belmont as Coach K looks to move within 1 win of Bob Knight on the all-time list. A big night of college basketball on ESPNU on Friday night. That is a pretty good Mount Rushmore right there. Only 2 wins away from the top of the ladder for Mike Krzyzewski. And speaking of the top of the ladder, here at St. John's, there's Brian Mahoney sitting next to the namesake, Luke Carnesecca, 24 years at St. John's, and obviously the head coach during their glory years, the kind of glory years that Steve Lavin hopes to return to this program and really believes he can.
And you know what, Steve Lavin obviously starting out on a good foot, not only utilizing coaching expertise last year to take a team that only won 6 Big East games, turn them into not only a 12-win team in the conference with 21 wins on the season into the NCAA tournament, but now he's got the recruiting class to back up what he's been able to do in his first year. That's one thing Luke Carnesecca could do in the New York area particularly, draw guys from the area to come and play. Matter of fact, I almost went to St. John's. My junior year, I was almost ready to commit. Then Coach Carnesecca decides he wants to try the pros and goes to the New York Nets. And that's when Lefty Driesell, George Raveling, and folks kind of stepped in that void. And in fact, the last time I was in this gym, literally, 41 years ago.
Is that right?
Yeah, my high school team, Powell Memorial, we beat Archbishop Malloy for the Catholic City Championship. We ultimately were named the #1 team in the country, that mythical national championship. We beat Malloy by 25 that year right here on this floor. It's changed a little bit.
I also have a hard time believing there was an empty seat in this gym for that game.
Yeah, back in those days, yeah, they probably pretty much filled it to the rafters, no question.
Brown leans in and gets the friendly bounce. So that puts William&Mary back on top. By the way, I received my first text from Steve Lavin. He was particularly impressed with the work of Len Elmore during the Open and thought the bosses at ESPN and ESPNU would probably feel the same. Speaking of impressed, a chance for a three-point play. And a sweet move inside by Don Pointer.
Yeah, pushing the ball, the ability to knock down the shots on the perimeter, that's given St. John's those driving lanes because the defenders have to push up. And obviously Don Pointer, terrific slasher to the basket, utilizing his length. And again, these young players from St. John's all understand how to score. There's no question about it. The question is, can they work with each other to get those good opportunities?
Second foul on Fred Heldring, by the way, so good to keep your eye on that. Good ball movement, though, inside. Penetration sets up Kendricks Brown. Harrison, a leaner, soft touch, in and out, gets his own miss, and uses the window.
St. John's persistent in that pressure, trying to keep the tempo to their favor. But William&Mary, they seem to like it too.
That's the one guy you don't want to leave open. Quinn McDowell last season led the Colonial in three-point percentage at 46%. Harkless, nice move.
Yeah, there's no question these guys have a nose for the rim. As you can see, if you break it down and isolate one-on-one, these young players from St. John's are going to beat you more times than not.
Britt tries a three, and he connects. And William&Mary opens up a 4-point lead.
What's enabling William&Mary to get the open shots? St. John's with that pressure, a bit of scrambling. You know, there's nice rotation by William&Mary with the ball, finding the open man.
We saw the Tribe as 4 of 8 from behind the arc. That was their strength last year. And now a hustle play here as Don Pointer picks up the offensive foul. Boatner steps in and takes the charge. And for Sir Dominic Pointer, that is his second.
Again, you see defenders out of position as they gamble. And William&Mary, nice job of recognizing. And right now, another gamble leaves the jump shooter wide open.
Well, last year, William&Mary as a team made 253s. They had 9 different players on the roster that made at least 1 3, and 5 different players made at least 25. So a variety of shooters, and they return basically all of that production this year. Britt on the drive. That's an offensive foul. Nice job by D'Angelo Harrison to step in and take the charge.
Well, to your point, Bob, Tony Shaver told us before the game that their focus this year is certainly on defense. I mean, this is a team that allowed 68 points per game, opponents shooting over 40% from the field. You take a look at the charge, secondary defender outside of the restricted area, both feet and able to draw the charge. You know, what they have to do right now is start stopping people, William&Mary. They scored 64 points a game but allowed 68. And usually that's not a recipe for success, is it? Nice job right there on the drive and kick.
Harkless couldn't connect.
But you have to appreciate at least the development of that play, the drive, drawing the defenders in, and a kick to the open shooter. And that's what I mean by St. John's players learning to play with each other. They can score one-on-one, but with good help defense against them, they got to find ways to draw the defense and find open looks. It's not easy for young guys.
William&Mary has opened up a 4-point lead with the use of the 3-point shot, but they've also fallen victim at times to what St. John's will probably try and live off of this year, and that is defensive intensity, especially in the backcourt. You can see the Red Storm has forced 8 turnovers. And Boatner cut again, so again had to go over to the sideline. Gets it patched up. He's a hockey player, though, right back in the game. Julian Boatner, only a sophomore. Last year started the last 18 games as a freshman for William&Mary and averaged nearly 10 points a game as a starter.
Yeah, he's one of their 3-point threats. Last year, 145 of his 196 field goal attempts were from beyond the arc.
Another 3 attempt. That won't go for Brandon Britt.
Good decision right there by Lindsay and pushing the ball up. Didn't have numbers. Kicked it back outside so they can reset.
Achua spins baseline. Nice move by Achua, but he hit the underside of the rim. Andrew Pavlov able to pull down the rebound.
But with that move, you got to believe Achua needs to get more touches inside because he puts the pressure on the defense.
Quinn McDowell does it again.
But for a guy that had to be out 6 weeks and only 5 days really back at what's considered game speed, he's getting the job done.
Dean Lindsay can't answer. A 9-2 run by William&Mary, opening up the 7-point lead. Rotner from the corner. That's off the mark.
Rotner a little anxious. That was challenged. Nice job there by Harrison defensively.
Stibb penetrates, lost the dribble. In among the trees. St. John's discombobulated here as Nuruddin Lindsay weaves his way inside and is able to score.
Well, that's the antidote to discombobulation. If you can get a guy who can put it on the floor and create for himself. You don't want to see that too often because more times than not, it's not going to work. At that time, everything broke down, but you got a guy who can beat you off the dribble, and that's a pretty good indication of what can be done when your team starts to fall apart offensively.
McDowell creates space, connects again.
Oh, he's so fundamentally sound, got his balance underneath him. Tony Shaver feared that he might not have his legs underneath him, but that time with the ball fake and a jumper, picture perfect.
First player in double figures in the game, Quinn McDowell. A turnover in the corner by Malik Stiff. Quinn McDowell, preseason first team All-Colonial. Also one of 30 preseason candidates for the Lowe's Senior Class Award. He can hit the three. He's got William&Mary on top by 7. Back in the Big Apple, college basketball season is underway. At the K Sports benefiting coaches person. And great kickoff week to the college basketball schedule as well. Coming up a little bit later on tonight. Coaches versus Cancer will continue to benefit when Valparaiso takes on number 16 Arizona. Later on, we'll see the debuts of UConn and Duke as well. So Len Elmore, basketball, at least on the collegiate level, is back, and we'll have nearly 1,500 games for you across our ESPN networks this season. And this is game number 1 of that run between William&Mary and St. John's.
I'll tell you what, you look at St. John's, a young team, shooting just 32% from the field, 8 for 25, but they're getting shots. And a lot of it has to do with turning William&Mary over. Without those turnovers, and they've got 5 points off of turnovers, this score obviously would be even much worse for St. John's. They got to find a way to knock down some looks.
Mo Harkless comes back on, replacing Malik Stiff.
And William&Mary in the half court, just doing a terrific job of ball movement. 10 of 16 from the field, but 5 of 11 from beyond the arc, and that's their strength. Look, they go inside out, hit the high post, try to catch the St. John's matchup in rotation.
At least for the moment, Marcus Thornton in the corner back on the floor. He replaced Quinn McDowell, so William&Mary without their best player. 8 seconds on the shot clock, and they're struggling to find an open look now. Britt on the drive, sets up the freshman. Thornton can't hit, and the rebound pulled down by Achua.
Yeah, Tony Shaver said they got to watch McDowell's minutes. Coming off that injury, they want to make sure they don't wear him down or make him vulnerable to another injury by playing him too often.
Nuruddin Lindsay called for the foul, the 5th on William&Mary. And Wednesday night coverage of the 2K Sports Classic, benefiting coaches versus cancer, continues here on ESPNU as Akron takes on Mississippi State, the Zips and the Bulldogs. The 2K Sports Classic, benefiting coaches versus cancer, Wednesday at 7 Eastern.
And Mississippi State could be one of those sleepers in the SEC. They got D. Boss, one of the premier point guards in the country, back, and Renardo Sidney, a guy who last year went through a lot of troubles. The new season right now, hopefully a new Renardo Sidney, because he's awfully talented.
AB jumper, smooth from the baseline from Mo Harkless. He has 8. That foul, by the way, a moment ago for William&Mary, called against Brandon Britt, his second. Each team with 5 team fouls as we come up on 4 minutes to go in the first half. Britt from the corner. Off the offensive rebound. And it's knocked out of bounds by St. John's.
Like the way Schalk went to that opposite corner of the glass, recognizing you shoot the ball from the corner, more times than not, a miss is going to come out on the other side. Kind of camped out on that weak side glass.
Lindsay with the takeaway. 2-on-1. Feeds Harkless. Cruises in, and Harkless is in double figures. And St. John's has made it a 1-possession game.
Another turnover by William&Mary. Every time they seem to be in a comfort zone, St. John's takes it away from him and gets into transition. As we said, that's the strength of this young team thus far.
Boatner hits a 3. So 9 turnovers, hurting William&Mary, but they continue to feast off the 3 as Boatner has 6. And that's the 6th 3 as well for the Tribe. And now St. John's turns it over.
But how often have you heard a 3-point shot is the equalizer? You know, they can erase a lot of mistakes if you're getting good looks. And right here, penetration in the gap, kicking it to the jump shooter who's set. And William&Mary seems to be back on track.
Here in studio, coming up at halftime, the latest on the Penn State sex scandal. Also, a former coach and his wife battle cancer. Plus, we'll have the latest from Lexington as Kentucky has its final tune-up before the regular season. Back to you, Bob.
All right, Anish, thanks very much. And you should definitely tune in at halftime to hear about the amazingly, I think, inspirational story of Homer Drew and his wife, what they have gone through, how they have supported each other. Stay tuned at halftime. You're not going to want to miss that story. And a big story, obviously, with St. John's, the fact that Mike Dunlap, the interim head coach, is on the sidelines. The Red Storm without their head coach, Steve Lavin, still recovering from surgery earlier last month to take care of prostate cancer. He is watching the St. John's opener. I'm sure biting his nails a bit as his team is down 6 Len Elmore here in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, there are some positive things that Steve has certainly seen from his team. Ability to get transition, pressure defense, but the mistakes are things obviously he has to expect from a young and inexperienced team.
And one thing Coach Lavin did not want to make a mistake with was his recovery. Diagnosed at the start of last season, but at the end of last season, that was when the public announcement was made. So on October 6th, after consultation with his doctors, had surgery to remove the cancer. And now his recovery ongoing, and we're not sure when he'll be able to return to the sideline. Air ball thrown up by Phil Green.
And Phil Green has been expected to be one of the more accurate three-point shooters. As you take a look, St. John's 2 of 8 from beyond the arc. In their exhibition game against St. Mary's, they shot 1 of 12. So they really necessarily have to find the range without question. The other thing I think Steve is probably biting his nails about is this team is getting out rebounded right now. They're -6, I believe, on the boards. You know, with their size and strength and athleticism, that should not be happening.
Second foul on D'Angelo Harrison. St. John's now with 16 fouls, so the Tribe will shoot free throws the rest of the way. Here's Thornton. That's off the mark. Harkless drives the baseline, lost it on the way up. And now numbers for William&Mary. McDowell back in the game.
Oh, they had a wide open look underneath with Heldring.
Offensive rebound off the Boatner miss. That 3 in and out for Marcus Thornton.
Yeah, St. John's dodged one that time. Wide open point blank opportunity for Heldring, and his team missed him inside.
Nuruddin Lindsay for 3. That misses badly. And a timeout called from the William&Mary bench. So Tony Shaver wants to talk things over with under 2 minutes to go in the first half here at Carnesecca Arena. News coverage of college football continues Tuesday and Thursday night. First Tuesday at 8 Eastern, Western Michigan meets Toledo, and then Thursday at 7:30 Eastern, another MAC showdown between Ohio and Western Michigan. College football on ESPNU Tuesday and Thursday this week. Bob Wischusen, Len Elmore at Carnesecca Arena. William&Mary won for their last 8, but maintaining their lead. And that'll break the drought. Thornton hits from the corner. The largest lead for William&Mary, it's up to 9.
But when you combine the 2-point and 3-point field goal attempts, the true shooting percentage with the threes obviously gives William&Mary the advantage that they have. St. John's has scored 14 points in the paint. Finally, Achua gets a touch. You know, they've got to start realizing that if you're going to climb back in this ball game, you've got to put pressure on that front line of William&Mary. You know, they've got some size in there, particularly with Achua as well as Mo Harkless. Got to be able to utilize that. The big fellas have to get some touches. I know this is the first game of the season. We got more than 1,400 to go. People are going to hear this refrain from me over and over again. But the big guys are out there for a reason. It's just not to get rebounds. Also, it's to put pressure on the opposing team offensively.
Achua able to hit. Pavlov called for that last foul, the 6th on William&Mary, as Matt Rung goes to the bench and Kendricks Brown comes back in. God's gift Achua. Now that is a name. And by the way, he falls right in line with the rest of his brothers and sisters. He's the 3rd of 6 children of Nigerian descent. His sisters are named Grace and Peace. His brothers are Promise, Precious, and God's Will. So talk about having high hopes for your kids.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, obviously his father's vocation has reflected that.
I'm Bob, you're Len. I don't know if our parents had nearly as high hopes for us. Nice ball movement. Sets up Boatner. Knocked out of bounds by Kendricks Brown.
St. John's once again recognizing down 7. You're not going to get it all back in this last 54 seconds. But to continue to put pressure and whittle this down, make it manageable for the second half.
Nice ball movement. Phil Green can't hit. St. John's missing a lot of open shots here in the first half.
And each time down, except for the prior time down, not one touch by the guy inside. You see William&Mary, even though they don't have the same threats inside, they're still getting the ball inside, so you can go inside out, force the defense to shift, and those jumpers become a lot easier.
About a 2.5-second differential between the shot clock and the game clock. Shot clock down to 10. McDowell from the corner, way short. Down to 4 seconds to go. Achua unloads it. Phil Green, good if it goes. That's off the mark. So St. John's will have to regroup in the locker room at halftime, down by 7, and William&Mary did most of their damage from three-point land in the first half.
They've been able to get the good looks, good ball movement, inside-out action, despite the turnovers. St. John's, on the other hand, has been able to capitalize on turnovers in transition, but they haven't established any perimeter game because they haven't gone inside.
We saw Luke Carnesecca and Brian Mahoney here. Steve Lavin watching us on television. Now it's time for the halftime report. Anish Shroff and another former St. John's head coach, Fran Fraschilla, next at our SportsCenter U studios.
All right, Bob, thank you very much. William&Mary up at the half. Fran, this is a St. John's team, and I'm sure Steve Lavin watching at home knows it. One of the most inexperienced teams in college basketball this year. That's showing in the first half.
It is. 6 new players for St. John's, and it's obvious they've got some jitters. This is a very good William&Mary team, good shooting team, well coached by Tony Shaver. And by the way, Steve Lavin is watching on My Password on ESPN3 if you're paying attention at home.
Oh, you guys were exchanging texts.
We were.
The first half. Certainly there was a big story in college athletics that rocked everything over the weekend. On Saturday, we were all shaken by the news out of State College, Pennsylvania. Penn State's former defensive coordinator, Jerry Sandusky, was charged with sexually abusing 8 boys over a 15-year period. 2 high-ranking school officials, including the athletic director, were implicated in failing to report the allegations. With the latest developments, here's Jeremy Schaap from State College.
2 days after being indicted for perjury and failure to report the suspected sexual abuse of a minor, former Penn State athletic director Tim Curley and Gary Schultz, until last night a senior vice president of the university, surrendered themselves to the authorities in Harrisburg Monday afternoon. Both were later freed after posting $75,000 bail each, but neither was spared the judgment of Pennsylvania's most senior law enforcement officials.
We cannot condone, under the law, the actions of those who make false and perjurious statements to a grand jury, regardless of the positions that they hold, particularly when they involve serious matters of great importance. The sexual abuse of a child is a horrific offense that understandably arouses strong emotions within all of us.
This is not a case about football. It's not a case about universities. It's a case about children who have had their innocence stolen from them, and a culture that did nothing to stop it or prevent it from happening to others.
Whether or not Penn State football coach Joe Paterno did enough to prevent the crimes allegedly committed by his longtime assistant Jerry Sandusky, who stands accused of sexually abusing 8 boys, is also an issue. But for now, it's not a criminal issue.
I can tell you that Mr. Paterno has been interviewed by the investigators. You can see that he has testified in the grand jury, that he reported this to individuals in the administration, being Mr. Curley and Mr. Schultz, as far as what occurred that night. He's been cooperative with the investigators in this case. He's not regarded as a target at this point.
Paterno issued a statement Sunday night, and he's expected to appear at his regularly scheduled Tuesday news conference. But no one expects him at that time to unburden himself about the alleged crimes of his longtime assistant, or the cover-up implicating Curley and Schultz, or what he himself knew and did. In the meantime, the program with which he's synonymous remains under the darkest imaginable cloud. In State College, Pennsylvania, Jeremy Schaap, ESPN.
Thank you, Jeremy. When we come back, Andy Katz has the story of one of college basketball's first families and their battle with cancer. That's next on SportsCenter U at the Half.
This Veterans Day, live on the flight deck of the USS Carl Vinson, Michigan State faces #1 ranked North Carolina in the Quicken Loans Carrier Classic. The season takes flight November 11, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN and ESPN 3D.
Homer Drew won more than 600 games in his career. He helped put Valparaiso on the map, thanks in large part to his son. Remember, it was Bryce Drew, Valpo's current head coach, who hit the iconic game-winning shot against Ole Miss in the 1998 NCAA tournament. It was part of a run that saw the Crusaders get to the Sweet 16. But these days, the Drews are on a different crusade, one that's far from the basketball court. Andy Katz reports.
It's like a day that just stayed the same for that whole month for us. Like a nightmare where you wake up and you think, oh, it was just a nightmare. But it's not.
When his 22-year career as Valparaiso head coach came to a close, Homer Drew settled into retirement. He and his wife Janet were ready to be full-time grandparents and travel the world. But on September 9th, that all changed when Homer was diagnosed with prostate cancer.
As soon as you hear the word cancer, it's like a red flag. It's wow.
3 days later came even more bad news when Janet was diagnosed with stage 3 bladder cancer.
Devastated. You're kind of numb. And then you don't know how severe it is until we get some follow-up examinations. But you're just, what? You go and you hug each other and just, we'll fight this together. We'll fight this together.
Last month, Janet Drew had surgery. Just 1 week later, Homer went in for surgery himself. For 3 days, they were at the University of Chicago Medical Center together, on the same floor, a few rooms apart.
It was probably one of the most precious memories I will ever have and cherish forever is seeing them in their gowns, sitting having dinner together in a hospital room. And just to see that 44 years of hard work and the ups and downs, they were there for each other when they both were hurting and needed support.
It might be the hardest coaching that I'll have to go through, seeing her and going through the surgery and what they've had to do, and she's been very brave, very courageous through all of this.
Homer was home on October 9th. Janet was released 3 days later, but still faces an uphill challenge.
Here's a guy who just had, surgery to remove his prostate, still finding out if he's cancer-free, what's going on. He's supposed to be resting at home, and yet he spent 3 nights in a cot in the hospital with my mom. He's put his deal on the back burner to help take care of my mom.
While the Drews battle together, son Bryce carries on the family name on the Valparaiso court.
Mirror it! Mirror the ball! Will, you gotta mirror it!
It's still kind of surreal to him not being a coach, just because for my 37 years of my life, that's all I've known him as.
Hands, hands, hands!
I, pray a lot for my dad, a lot for my mom, and really I just live, trying to live day by day. And every day I see him, I enjoy it with him. It's really changed my whole thought of life probably in the last 2 months.
Certainly the Drews in our thoughts and prayers. And Fran, I know you're very close to the family.
Yeah, and it's a spiritual family, and they're going to fight this together. This is part of life that happens. It goes beyond basketball. But knowing Homer and Bryce and the Drew family and Scott down at Baylor, they're all praying, and we're all praying with them. It's a great basketball family, Anish, and I've got a lot of good memories of that family, and we're all thinking of you guys.
Homer, Scott, Bryce, 3 coaches in that family. Bryce Drew, now the head coach, of course, at Valpo tonight. We get Valpo and Arizona, second part of our doubleheader here on ESPNU. Valpo going to Tucson to take on an Arizona team, of course, without Derek Williams, who moved on to the pros. That's Quinn McDowell. I guess it's McDowell's Golden Arcs. 10 points, 7 boards in the first half. William&Mary up 7. Duke's Mike Krzyzewski 2 wins away from tying the all-time wins record held by Bobby Knight. We'll preview that climb 6 p.m. Eastern on Friday. Duke gets Belmont Friday night, and then Saturday, Coach K, if he wins that Friday game, can set the record on ESPNU against Presbyterian. John Calipari in Kentucky, another young team. Exhibition game against Moorhead College. Little defense leading to offense.
Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. Take a look at that throw down by Anthony Davis. Coach Cal told me last week Michael Kidd-Gilchrist will be in that starting lineup.
Hey, they got guys coming back too. Terrence Jones.
How about Duran Lamb? Not bad. It's a good group, Anish. And they will play defense.
69-11 again. Exhibition game. There's your halftime score. St. John's down at the break. Mo Harkless, one of the team's top recruits, the freshman, with a solid first half, but the Johnnies down 7.
Welcome back to the 2K Sports Classic, benefiting coaches versus cancer. Just about set for the start of the second half between William&Mary and St. John's. A 7-point lead for the Tribe. Bob Wischusen alongside Len Elmore. An interesting first half, and maybe a bit of a disturbing one for Steve Lavin, who, recovering from prostate cancer surgery, watching from home, and saw his team miss a lot of open shots. Obviously a highly touted incoming recruiting class, but it's a group that probably still learning to play together, and they had some opportunities but just couldn't score in the first half.
Yeah, the missed open shots, they have a solution, and that is make sure you get your big guys some touches. When you take a look at Achua and Harkless, these guys are shooting 6 of 15 from the floor. They've got 17 of the 26 points St. John's has scored. Get the ball inside, you get those wide open looks, and you kick it back outside.
Take a look at some of our first half statistics presented by Reese's, and you can see St. John's inside the arc, outside the arc, all of that adds up to a low 30s shooting percentage. William&Mary last season as a team, one of the best three-point shooting and most high-volume three-point shooting teams in the Colonial, and that continued in their opener tonight.
Well, they continue to fire it up when they get those good looks. They're the ones who've been playing nicely inside out. The good news for St. John's, though, is that their pressure defense still yielding dividends. 9 turnovers. They've got 7 points off of those 9 William&Mary turnovers.
Shot clock never put in motion to start the second half, so Brian O'Connell recognizing that stops play, and that's Bill McCarthy over at the scorer's table. They'll take the first 10 seconds off of the shot clock to begin the second half.
And when we talk about St. John's front line, yes, they're pretty thin up there with Achua and Harkless really the lone guys, but you got to take advantage of them. Quinn McDowell's certainly taking advantage of the open looks he's getting.
McDowell has 12. Loose in the corner. That's a tie-up, and the Arrow will keep it with the Red Storm. Mike Dunlap on the sideline for St. John's. Obviously awaiting the return of Steve Lavin. And Steve Lavin, in spite of the fact that he's not here tonight, constantly involved with St. John's in their preparation. He has practice plans, DVDs of practices sent to him all the time, texts the players, calls the players, has constant input on what he'd like to see after he watches a DVD of practice, what he thinks needs to be improved upon. Harkless inside, a nice feed from Malik Stiff.
And that's what you have to do. Penetrate either by pass or by dribble. That 2-3 zone has some gaps. A nifty move in there by Stiff to find Harkless. St. John's extending their matchup zone. And William&Mary still exhibiting that patience.
McDowell from the corner. That one comes up short. Way outside for Harrison. That's in and out. Good closeout by Harkless on Quinn McDowell. William&Mary not shy about playing the Big East in their history, but they haven't had many wins. Trying to get one tonight against St. John's. The turnover, though. Nuruddin Lindsay glides in, draws the foul. So Kendricks Brown commits the personal. That's his first. That will put Nuruddin Lindsay at the free throw line.
And that ultimately may be the saving grace for the St. John's offense. The ability to take the ball away from William&Mary and not just create the turnovers. That's the sixth steal for St. John's. It's the ability to get those live ball open floor opportunities where the athleticism of St. John should take over.
Nuruddin Lindsay is a young man you root for. Grew up in Philadelphia, originally went to Overbrook High School and almost broke Wilt Chamberlain's scoring records there. But he moved constantly, his father in and out of prison. His best friend dies of cancer in 2009. He has 4 brothers, 2 of the 4 shooting victims in Philadelphia, and also died. So he gave up basketball for 2 years. Trying to resurrect his career, went to Redlands Community College last year after 2 years out of the game. And here's Lindsay off the turnover, throws it down. So he has been through a lot.
Yeah, another steal, another live ball opportunity. And we said this young St. John's team excels in transition off the defense. We talk about Nuruddin Lindsay once again as this timeout is called. Oh, actually a turnover. The fact is, it shows you what basketball can do. You know, as an opportunity to get out of, you know, situations. And here, once again, the double team with the pressure. And once St. John's takes it away from you, they know what to do with it.
A 10 count on William&Mary, their 12th turnover, already their 3rd this half. Inside, Achua is able to get loose, and St. John's is back within 3.
Dedicated effort to get it inside. Big fellow with the drop step and strength to the glass.
Brandon Britt leans in and scores. That's a crowd quieter by Brandon Britt.
Yeah, Brandon Britt, all Colonial Athletic Association rookie team. He willed that ball in. Obviously, he recognized that William&Mary had to stop the bleeding.
Lindsay inside. Nuruddin Lindsay with the right hand.
Once again, high-low. This is the way you need to attack that zone.
Britt again, another leaner. This one comes up short. Nuruddin Lindsay on the move. He's got a chance to tie the game. Chance for an old-fashioned three-point play for Nuruddin Lindsay when we return as St. John's is 1 point away from a tie.
St. John's on the push. Nice job in transition. We said that's their strength. And the storm is brewing, 1 point down. Well, we talked about the fact that St. John's needed to get the ball inside. Watch Achua get perfect position down low. And then you see the pass right inside. That's a concentrated effort to get it inside to the big fella. And that takes a lot of pressure off the jump shooters because teams now have to recognize they're at a disadvantage with that size and strength inside. They'll back off a little bit, and the jump shooters can step into the jump shots when it's available.
Well, you wonder about St. John's size this season. Obviously, losing Amir Garrett, who's more of a wing player, but Norvell Pell, Jakir Sampson, I mean, players that are front court guys that could potentially help from a size standpoint. Tonight, St. John's has outscored William&Mary 24-4 in the paint.
Yeah, a lot of it are the transition buckets that they've gotten off the steals defensively and gotten into transition. But still in all, you got to attack zones inside out. And when you got a gift like God's gift of Achua inside, you got to be able to utilize it.
Nuruddin Lindsay couldn't tie the game, though. From the wing, it's Thornton. The freshman a little too strong. Harkless with the rebound. And now a chance for St. John's to take the lead. Lindsay weaves his way inside. Sets up Harrison. He knocks it down. And St. John's with their first lead since it was 9-7 early first half.
And Bob, that was what I was talking about. Get some buckets inside. Get your bigs active inside. The defense has to honor them. And you step into those jump shots very easily.
Miss outside by Brandon Britt. Lindsay, smooth to the bucket. A chance for another three-point play.
But whether it's off the steal or off the rebound and a kick out in the fast break, this young St. John's team understands how to push the ball up the floor and make the most out of transition opportunity. Take a look. It all began with the outlet pass, and then you're getting it inside. I'm not so sure Lindsay didn't get away with an extra step, but no matter.
It's a home game for the Red Storm. Nuruddin Lindsay with 8 points during a 15-2 St. John's run. Again, can't hit at the free throw line. But St. John's now with a 4-point lead. So we've had an 11-point turnaround in the first 5 minutes of the second half, as St. John's has lit it up from the field to start the second half.
High percentage shots off the defense, and then in the half court, concentrated effort getting it inside, either off the dribble or the pass.
Another three on the way, and another miss for William&Mary as Boatner can't hit.
Well, William&Mary's so focused on shooting jump shots, they're losing guys who break wide open in the paint. Gotta be able to recognize.
That three's in and out for D'Angelo Harrison.
Probably a little too quick a shot by Harrison, looking to try to stick the dagger in deeper instead of playing with his teammates.
Another three. This time Boatner is able to connect, and it's a 1-point game. 9 points for Julian Boatner. Achua working hard inside. Shot clock down to 10.
get in good position. He's just got to get in position where his teammates can pass the ball.
Now he'll come out and drive it. Harrison, the offensive rebound. A little floater goes.
St. John's now asserting themselves on the glass. They were -6 at halftime, and I'm sure they heard about it from interim coach Mike Dunlap. They're too big, too athletic for William&Mary to be at a deficit rebounding.
Offensive foul called on the freshman Marcus Thornton. Achua stepped up and took the charge.
Yep, the secondary defender stepping outside the arc. See him right there, both feet outside when the contact was made.
We'll step aside. The first of nearly 1,500 college basketball games this year on ESPN networks. Hope the rest are as good as this one.
This Veterans Day, live on the flight deck of the USS Carl Vinson, Michigan State faces #1 ranked North Carolina in the Quicken Loans Carrier Classic. The season takes flight November 11, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN and ESPN 3D.
That will be a great scene, Glenn, and I'm sure that'll be a game you'll be watching. I'll be watching as well. The Carrier Classic, and that'll be a lot of fun to see that scene.
Certainly will, and obviously college basketball's #1 fan, President Obama, should be there. Talk about this turnaround for St. John's offensively. It's all about getting the ball in the paint, either out of transition or concentrated effort to get it into the bigs. 17 points in this half, 14 of those points have been in the paint.
Harkless flashes into the paint, floats left, and comes up a bit short. Offensive rebound, though, by Achua. 11 now in the game for God's gift Achua. Thornton leans in. Another offensive foul.
Nice job again by Achua. Secondary defender, last line of defense for St. John's. Recognizes a step into the lane. And right there, he's set, ends are up, concentrated, focused. And Thornton, the freshman, that's one first-year player against another. And Achua gets the benefit.
Second foul on Marcus Thornton. 15 foul on William&Mary here in the second half. We played nearly 8 minutes, and St. John's has yet to commit a second half foul.
When I say first-year player, Achua, junior college transfer from Erie Community College. So he's had 2 years of semi-college basketball under his belt. Whereas Thornton, straight from high school, Prince George's County, Maryland Player of the Year.
Pointer for 3. Got it.
And you see the inside-out game. All of a sudden, the jumpers that they couldn't find in the first half. You get the big fellas a few touches, those jump shots come a lot easier.
St. John's now gambling defensively, which is dangerous against a good three-point shooting team. And then Nuruddin Lindsay picks up the cheap foul. That's his second, and the first foul on St. John's here in the second half. But turnabout fair game for St. John's as they hit from 3. Dom Pointer makes it an 8-point game. ESPN's the home court of college hoops, and Friday night, ESPNU shoots 2 college basketball games your way. First at 6 Eastern, though. Don't miss Coach K's record prime preview. Then at 7, UConn begins defense of their national title against Columbia. And at 9 Eastern, Duke and Belmont do battle as Coach K looks to move within 1 win of Bob Knight on the all-time list. College basketball on ESPNU coming up on Friday night. Well, when you're down some scholarship players, even the assistants have to get in the act, and Rico Hines paid the price.
Yeah, that's the epitome of taking one for the team right there. Getting out maybe when you're not in the best of shape, but obviously trying to fill out the numbers so the team can practice. And I think he's got some hazardous duty pay coming. Tearing his Achilles.
Boatner from the corner hits a 3. William&Mary back within 5.
St. John's exhibiting a lot more patience in this half. Looking for openings.
Shot clock winding down to 5, though. Maybe too patient. Lindsay penetrates. Nice lead for Achua. And Achua will go to the free throw line.
That's great basketball right there. Quintessential guard play. You push it up and test the defense. If you don't have it against the half court, you try to work it around, and when the shot clock's under 10, you got to get somebody to be able to penetrate, break the defense down, and create something. Lindsay, nice job. And Achua, we talked about his strength, his good hands, and athleticism. Everything was employed there.
Red Storm have struggled at the free throw line as a team. They are 4 for 11. Achua, though, completes the three-point play. It was a 7-point deficit for St. John's at halftime. They now lead by 8.
Steve Lavin earlier texted us.
Lindsay with the takeaway. He'll go to the free throw line. Another foul called against William&Mary. Another turnover as a result. Brandon Britton this time commits the personal.
Well, the point I was
That's his third.
Steve texted us earlier, and we were talking about the front line. And he said, you know, they're a bit thin, and they are. I mean, you got two legitimate frontline players, Harkless and Achua, but he said Achua is legitimate. And we've seen that over and over again on both ends of the floor. Understands how to take the charge, clog the middle, and offensively he makes himself available with good hands and strength to the rim.
And if Norvell Pell is a player that does get himself academically eligible, he's a power forward / center post player as well. Amir Garrett and Jakar Sampson, part of the 3 players that were declared academically ineligible, all also top 100 recruits for Steve Lavin as part of the recruiting class he was going to build this season and the future for St. John's around. So he could add pieces as the season moves on. Shot clock at 10 for William&Mary. Another takeaway by Lindsay. Nuruddin Lindsay crosses over and scores.
Well, we talked about at the beginning of the telecast the unknowns of this season. Inexperienced team. Don't know what to expect from them, but 2 things we knew. Strength inside as well as the ability to play defense, get in transition. Take a look at the double right here, and then you see a lot of guys stepping up with good hands right there. And now it's off to the races. Pressures really work for St. John's as we talk about not only the double teaming and being able to block the vision of the passer, but also the length of the guys who are going to chase the pass out of the double team. They get their hands on the ball, deflect it, and push it.
Well, the 2 best players arguably tonight for St. John's, Nuruddin Lindsay and God's Gift Achua, are both players that have transferred in from junior colleges, not even a part of the ESPNU Top 100 rating system that ranked the recruiting class. So there are weapons, and there's a takeaway by Mo Harkless. He slides in and scores. Timeout called by the Tribe. 8 turnovers in the second half for William&Mary, and St. John's has taken the game over, Len.
Yeah, they have. And again, it has a lot to do with the increased pressure defensively, getting out in transition where they excel. And then getting the ball inside, high-low, Achua makes himself available. You know, they've attacked William&Mary at every point they need to against that half-court, with that half-court pressure. And then when William&Mary goes to zone defensively, they've been able to get in the gaps, which has made the jump shots a lot easier than they were in the first half.
21-point turnaround since halftime. A 31-10 run for St. John's in the first 10.5 minutes of the second half.
Well, it's all been about playing to your strengths and imposing your will. First half, they weren't able to do it. They were being out-rebounded. They really weren't converting on jump shots. They went back to their strengths in inside play. greater intensity on the defensive end to create transition opportunities, and then the jump start started to fall.
Another deflected ball, another takeaway, but D'Angelo Harrison was on the sideline, so it stays with William&Mary. How much of this second half performance by St. John's do you think was maybe a message in the locker room of, guys, settle down? It's the first game, that's fine, but have fun. Go play hard, be yourselves, that type of thing. And it seemed as if St. John's was a little bit tight in the first half based on how comfortable they seem in the second half.
Yeah, and I also think, again, it was trying to get these young people refocused on where it is that they need not only to get the ball on offense, but certainly defensively, how much more pressure they can apply. All those messages resonated, obviously. And I also think the game against St. Mary's, where they played a Division III team, St. Mary's had them down in the second half by 6, but St. John's had poise to be able to push that one and pull it out. I think that had a lot to do with the second half as well. They just relived the poise moment.
Nice scoop by Matt Rum, the junior from Baltimore. Stepping into a 3, Harrison, too strong. Nice hustle play, though, by Achua. Harrison penetrates again. Count the bucket, plus the foul, and a chance for another St. John's three-point play. I think this team likes each other.
Well, they certainly do. And again, it comes down to not only liking each other, but being able to play with each other. And as we said at the beginning of the telecast, these young fellas, they know how to score in a one-on-one situation. They can break you down. The question is knowing when to be able to take a guy off the dribble one-on-one and knowing when to play with your teammates, draw defenses, and kick. If they can continue to make good decisions like that, this young team is going to be pretty much a team to be reckoned with as the season wears on.
Only 7 scholarship players to start the season for St. John's as a result of the 3 freshmen that were declared academically ineligible. So they will play shorthanded, at least for the first half of the season. So much so that on October 16th on a Sunday morning, St. John's had open tryouts just to try and fill out their roster. And Sam Seeley, one of the players on the bench for the Red Storm, made the team as a walk-on out of the open tryout because they needed players, as you said, just to be able to practice 5-on-5. Fadeaway comes up short for Quinn McDowell. Harkless for 3.
Even though the shot was missed, that's the kind of basketball St. John's needs to continue to play.
Blocking foul called on Achua. That will put Marcus Thornton at the free throw line, but for St. John's, a big run in the second half, Len Elmore, and it's a team with some chemistry.
You got talent. All you need is love.
Coming up at 9 o'clock on ESPNU, Arizona and Valparaiso. There's Kyle Fogg, averaged better than 8 points per game last year. Who will be the Wildcats' go-to guy now that Derek Williams is gone?
Plenty of big games this week as ESPNU's college basketball schedule begins with our game tonight. Following our game, the 2K Sports Classic will continue in Arizona. Sean Miller's team will take on Valparaiso, and then Akron and Mississippi State. Wednesday Eastern, we'll see UConn and Duke later on this week. Len Elmore as well. So college basketball is back, and hopefully all the games that we have this season are as entertaining as what we've had tonight between St. John's and William&Mary.
Well, certainly a tale of two halves for both of these teams, but St. John's just unbelievable in the second half. Defensive intensity, focus on the offensive end. You know, this is the team right now, 22 points off of 18 William&Mary turnovers, 36 points in the paint. And they started to utilize their strengths in the second half, feeling very confident about themselves, and it made the other aspects of the game a lot easier.
Marcus Thornton at the free throw line, the first ever Gatorade Player of the Year to come to William&Mary. Last year it was Maryland's Gatorade Player of the Year. St. John's shooting the lights out here in the second half. A lot of the shots they've made have been in transition off of forced turnovers.
High percentage shots.
High percentage looks.
14 fast break points. They've been able to push it out and connect.
Harkless will go to the free throw line as he crashed inside. Foul called on Andrew Pavlov. That's his second. Well, of all the players in the recruiting class for Steve Lavin, Mo Harkless might be the true centerpiece. He was the number 39 player in our ESPNU Top 100 and the highest ranked New York City recruit to choose St. John's since Omar Cook. So keeping the hometown talent home, a key for Steve Lavin. And Wednesday night coverage of the 2K Sports Classic benefiting coaches versus cancer continues on ESPNU. The Zips meet the Bulldogs. It's Akron and Mississippi State. The 2K Sports Classic benefiting coaches versus cancer Wednesday at 7 Eastern.
Yeah, I guess the only weakness I've seen with St. John's inability to knock down free throws with any real regularity. And again, against stiffer competition in conference, that's going to be something they certainly have to solve. But yeah, when you talk about Mo Harkless, he's probably their most versatile player. He's got silky smooth moves, 6'8", small forward, and play a little bit of guard, can play a little bit of power position. He's able to knock the ball down from the perimeter, make the plays.
Reach-in foul called against Malik Stiff. Now here are the three players that are here as part of the 6 players that were all ranked in our ESPNU Top 100. Harkless, the highest ranked player to come out of New York, certainly, in a long time. And Sir Dominic Pointer, overall, the top-ranked freshman. As Dom Pointer's from Detroit. But, of course, Norvell Pell, number 77. Jakar Sampson, number 32, and Amir Garrett, number 99 in the ESPNU Top 100, all declared academically ineligible, and all 3 of those players back in prep school trying to work their way towards academic eligibility, and there's a chance that 2, if not 3, might be able to get themselves eligible and join St. John's midway through their season.
Well, you talk about those players, Harkless, Harrison, and Pointer. This is their baptism, Division I college basketball. We'll have to get rid of those numbers now. They're college basketball players. No longer are they high school players or high school recruits. Their proof is going to be in this pudding.
That jumper knocked down by Malik Stiff.
You know, another thing that's kind of mind-boggling with the transition play of St. John's and their ability to move the ball here in the second half, they haven't had a turnover. Not in the second half.
3 from the corner. Connecting is McDowell.
And that's something I think Steve Lavin, Mike Dunlap, and the coaching staff have to be pleased with. The fact that with this up-tempo basketball, this team hasn't turned it over in the second half. 4 for the game.
Harkless on the offensive glass. It's tipped back out, though. And Thornton stepped on the sideline. ESPN is conducting a multifaceted initiative across its U.S. media platforms. We're calling it America's Heroes, a salute to our veterans. Sports-related stories about our troops and veterans will be included in shows and special events. Support our troops and wounded warriors, home or away, as well as their families. Go to giveuso.org. Donate $10 by texting GiveUSO to 50555. Your support will provide free phone cards or holiday packages of needed items or help build Wounded Warrior centers as well. So the best of causes, and hopefully will be a big part in generating some money for our troops and their families. So D'Angelo Harrison to the free throw line as St. John's has taken the game over in the second half. And Len, you're right, if they could just shoot free throws, they'd be up by 20.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be something, obviously, on a day-to-day basis. They have to get more comfortable. I mean, these guys can shoot jump shots as they have here in the second half. Lights out, you can certainly shoot free throws, but it's a confidence factor and a form factor. Because as I said, by the time they get into conference play, you get close game situations. Obviously, the free throws They're going to be monumental.
Oh, hitting it to the backboard is Don Pointer.
Well, he came reputed to be an outstanding defender. And that was excellent timing back then.
Harkless in the paint, making it look easy. Another jumper goes down for Quinn McDowell. He has 17. And poor Quinn McDowell, he's only been back for 5 days. He was out for the better part of 6 weeks with a meniscus injury in his knee. So for an up-tempo game like this on the road against St. John's and their athletes, that's not easy for Tony Shaver to be without his best player for the last 6 weeks from a conditioning standpoint, just trying to get him out there to play minutes tonight.
Yeah, and that's what we said before, that you got to watch his minutes, kind of ease him back in. It's a heavy load for him to carry in a game like this.
Lindsay does it again. The scoop inside by Nuruddin Lindsay. 16 in the game for Lindsay.
There's no arguing this point. There's a lot of talent out there for St. John's. The question is, as they get into the tougher parts of their schedule, can they play with the same swagger? Can they play with the same confidence? Because if they do, the unknown that we spoke of, first-year players, what are the expectations? They'll be answered.
Somehow it finds its way inside to Achua. Bullet pass by Harkless actually went through the hands of Pointer. I think Pointer might have thought that ball was for him. He deflected it slightly, but Achua with the flush inside. And now the block at the other end. Carnesecca Arena is alive. What a debut for their young Red Storm. K Sports Classic, benefiting Coaches versus Cancer, is brought to you by Verizon, America's largest and most reliable wireless network. As soon as we're done here on the Big Apple, the 2K Sports Classic, benefiting Coaches versus Cancer, will continue with a matchup between Valparaiso and number 16, Arizona. And that's a game that is even more poignant because the Drew family is Valparaiso. Homer Drew, of course, the longtime head coach. His son Bryce has now taken over. And Homer Drew and his wife Janet, both recovering from major cancer surgery. Homer Drew was diagnosed with cancer, and he had prostate surgery. Within the same week, his wife Janet was diagnosed with stage 3 bladder cancer, and the two have been in the hospital together, supporting each other in their recovery. It's an amazing story. Bryce Drew, obviously, his brother also the head coach at Baylor, so it's a basketball family, but it's an inspirational story. So Valparaiso will be taking on Arizona coming up next.
And even though it's a major challenge for Valparaiso, it keeps the game in context, no question about it. And more important things. Take a look at St. John's scoring. 4 guys in double figures, accounting for 62 out of the 69 points. Talking about Achua, Harkless, Lindsay, and Harrison.
Foul called inside on Quinn McDowell. That's the 10th team foul against William&Mary.
3 guys with 16 points, 1 guy with 14. So you talk about some balance. Tremendous.
Yeshua will shoot the automatic 2.
Big fella, a nice touch. Good rotation on the free throw.
The big question, literally and figuratively for St. John's, with Achua and Harkless, if they are not able to get some of the ineligible players eligible, is do they have enough size? Do they have enough rebounding? to last in the Big East. It's one thing to be young. It's another thing to be small. And this is a small Big East basketball team.
Well, they've got a lot of tweeners out there, guys with length who have the ability to rebound. But, yeah, I mean, you talked about the size and some of the other things, also the stamina. Because they're going to be tested. Big East, very physical conference. And there are a lot of teams who can run 3 and 4 bigs at you. You know, both Achua and Harkless may have to be judicious in many ways in how they play defense. Certainly in Steve Lavin and Mike Dunlap in the minutes that are given to them. But right now, in a one-game situation with this size and strength, they play with the confidence we see out here. I think they can compete very nicely.
Boatner gives the foul, so it will be 2 free throws for Mo Harkless. A great debut for Harkless, a great debut for Achua, and maybe an unexpected debut, at least from the fans that aren't as familiar with the players that weren't a part of the quote-unquote freshman recruiting class. Nuruddin Lindsay, one of the junior college transfers, along with Achua. Those two at times tonight have been the players that have carried St. John's. Certainly in that middle stretch of the second half run, it was Lindsay with his pressure defense triggering things. Yeah,
his length, the deflections, and then lightning quick transition from defense to offense. And both Lindsay and Harkless distributing the ball nicely.
Lindsay does it again.
A little bit of everything. That's his 5th steal. So you talk about creating havoc on the defensive end. Now, we've been singing the praises of St. John's for about 3/4 of this game. Let's not forget now that William&Mary's been dinged up.
Yes.
At the beginning of the season. Key players not here. Their best players only been in uniform, or at least on the practice court, for 5 days. You know, this is not, you know, a true demonstration of what William&Mary is capable of doing. Once they get all their guys back, I think they certainly will improve on that 10-win season of last year. We're at 10-22, 4-14 in the Colonial Athletic Association. Their young guys last year got more minutes than they probably expected to, got better. And when McDowell rounds into shape, you know, this is a team that also is going to create some problems in the Colonial Athletic League, which may be the best so-called mid-major league in America. Last year, getting a bunch of, getting 3 NCAA bids. Obviously, you know what George Mason has done, and last year, Virginia Commonwealth, you know, went to the Final Four. So
it's a great league.
Yeah, it is. No question about it.
And Tony Shaver talked to us before the game tonight about Kyle Gaylord, who's gone for the season, most likely with a cracked bone near his knee. John Mark Ludwig, who last year was a big 3-point threat. Tim Rusthoven started the final 20 games last season and averaged about 6 points and 4 rebounds in those starts. All of those players not playing tonight because of injury, and that's 75% of their front court, at least the front court minutes they count.
Yeah, so I mean, we certainly sing the praises of St. John's and their young players because they rose to the occasion, particularly in the second half, and played to their strengths. William&Mary still don't know what they are until they get their key players back.
Still in all, a great second half outburst for St. John's. They outscore William&Mary 48-26 in the second half and win it going away. With Steve Lavin watching from home, recovering from prostate cancer surgery, he watches his team win their debut as Mike Dunlap able to engineer, with the help of Nuruddin Lindsay, a big second half comeback. And Lindsay is tonight's player of the game, brought to you by 2K Sports. 19 points, 17 of his 19 coming in the second half.
Yeah, and he did a lot of his damage on the defensive end with 5 steals, ability to get out in transition, distribute the ball, as well as put it in the basket.
So St. John's wins it going away in the second half, a 22-point turnaround from halftime for a 74-59 win. Coming up next, more of the 2K Sports Classic benefiting coaches versus cancer. Valparaiso taking on Arizona in Tucson. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. Now let's head back to the studio with Anish and Fran standing by. Guys?
All right, Valpo, Arizona coming your way next. Sean Miller got his Wildcats to the Elite Eight a year ago. They eventually lost.
Well, the preseason coaches poll, North Carolina #1, Kentucky 2. Arizona trying to climb back into the top 10 after losing Derek Williams a year ago. They'll open with Valpo in just a few minutes here on ESPNU.
All right, with Fran Fraschilla and Ish Schroff of Valpo, Arizona, again coming your way next. St. John's down 7 at the half, plus 22 in that second half. What was the key to the comeback?
Well, it's pressure defense. And first of all, Coach Lab needs to know I don't have the unlimited text plan, Steve. So you can't be texting me during the game. But what he's done is, and he did this last year, he's entrusted his defense to Mike Dunlap, a veteran coach with a great reputation. Pressure zone defense really wore down William&Mary in the second half. I was really impressed with some of these new guys, including Nuruddin Lindsay, who's a guy, Anish, that stayed out of basketball for 2 years after high school, lost his brother tragically, went to junior college for a year in Oklahoma, came back east, and boy, was he terrific tonight in the second half. Great energy, he plays under the control, and he gave them instant offense in the second half.
Last year, the reason St. John's was able to be so good, they had the seniors. A lot of seniors. This year, it's a lot of youth. It's a lot of inexperience. But we forget, this is the #3 recruiting class in the country. They're young but talented.
Well, they lost 3 guys, obviously, that never made it to St. John's because they were academically ineligible. They may get those guys back in the second semester. But if you closed your eyes in the second half, that pressure defense looked an awfully lot like the defense that we saw last year from St. John's. There are going to be bumps in the road. But this was a veteran William&Mary team. Yes, banged up a little bit, but first game out of the box for St. John's at Carnesecca Arena. I think Steve Lavin's got to be awfully pleased at home. He watched his team really come back from a shaky first half, played terrific in the second half.
What do you coaches call that? Teaching moments?
Teaching moments, and he's going to be on the phone in a little while to Mike Dunlap, who really had this team ready.
I'm sure he's going to be blowing up your iPhone as well. Valpo, Arizona, the second game of our doubleheader. For a preview, let's send it out to Tucson. Dave Fleming and Miles Simon.
Well, it's another year of big expectations for the number 16 ranked Arizona Wildcats at home tonight to kick off their college basketball season against the Valparaiso Crusaders. And hi, everyone. Dave Fleming alongside a former Arizona Wildcat himself, Miles Simon. And tonight, the college basketball season begins for these two teams. For Valpo, the greatest player in their program's history, Bryce Drew, takes over his first game as head coach tonight. And Miles, Bryce Drew is going to lean heavily on Ryan Brokroff, probably his best overall player.
Yeah, Ryan Brokroff, he's their leading returner at 10 points a game. He shot the lights out in the Horizon League last year at a clip of 45%. He'll play either the 3 or the 4 spot, depending on the size, because they're a very small team, but Brokroff needs to have a big game.
You know, meanwhile, for Sean Miller and his Arizona Wildcats a year ago, one step away from the Final Four, but no Derek Williams, no Momo Jones. So even though with a lot of returning players, this is a very different Wildcats team.
Absolutely. They're going to look to 3 guys to be their leaders. Starts with Kyle Fogg is the first one. He's a senior. He's played in the Elite Eight. He's played in the needs to knock down. We're down over here. Jesse Perry, he's a rugged power forward, center type, athletic, has expanded his game, can shoot the outside shot a little bit. And then Solomon Hill, who's maybe their best all-around player, can pass the ball, can handle it, defend multiple positions. These guys have been through the battles, won a Pac-10 championship, played to go to the Final Four last year. He'll need all 3 of those guys to shine nightly.
So the season begins for these two teams tonight. Valparaiso here in Tucson to take on the Arizona Wildcats coming up next.
You know, a year ago, the identity of Arizona was pretty clear. It was Derek Williams, maybe the best player in college last season. What about finding an identity this season? I mean, they have to find not only a go-to guy, but an identity again.
Well, they do, and they've struggled in the first 2 exhibition games. They lost to Seattle Pacific, barely beat Humboldt State. And Sean Miller's got 3 veterans back, starting with Kyle Fogg, the senior guard, who really played well at the end of last season, especially in the NCAA tournament. He could shoot the ball from deep, and more importantly than his shooting, it's a young Arizona team, so his leadership is going to be so important. And if there's one disappointment early in the year for Sean Miller, Fogg, Jesse Perry, and Solomon Hill have not yet established themselves as the leaders of this young team. There's talent on this team, but they're searching for that identity you talked about, which is missing to this point. They open the season tonight. We'll see if it's going to be any different than those 2 exhibition games.
They do have a talented young freshman coming in by the name of Josiah Turner. What can you tell us about him?
Well, he's a really athletic point guard. He doesn't think like a point guard just yet. That's been a problem in the early going. And don't forget Nick Johnson, the nephew of the great Dennis Johnson. Nick Johnson and Josiah Turner, 2 very athletic freshman guards. And you know what? They remind me of the old story. There are 3 kinds of players: those that know, those that don't know, those that don't know they don't know. Right now, those freshman guards are in that 3rd category. That's going to have to change quickly because Arizona is going to have a very tough non-conference going into the Pac-10.
And Valpo, don't sleep on them. First-year head coach, an alum, and not only an alum, a guy who hit probably the most famous shot in school history, Bryce Drew. What do you make of him taking over a program that was left to him by his dad?
Well, I think it's great. You know, Scott Drew had the job when Homer Drew retired. Then Scott got the Baylor job. Homer came back to coaching. Bryce played in the NBA, played overseas, came back 6 years on the coaching staff at Valpo, and now it's his turn. You talk about a family business. The Drew family, when it comes to basketball coaching, is a family business. Bryce Drew is ready for this opportunity, but he's only got 2 starters back, so Horizon League action is going to be a little bit rough, I think, early on, and they'll have their hands full tonight at the McHale Center.
I would think his past glory would buy him a little currency with those fans.
Too bad he can't play.
That is true. Eligibility expired. Valpo, Ryan Brokoff, 10 points, 5 rebounds per game last season. Looking to play spoiler in Tucson. We're a little more than 5 minutes away from tip-off. That's the next game coming up here on ESPNU. And don't forget, Friday, we're tracking Coach K as he tries to catch Bobby Knight and then pass Bobby Knight for most wins at the Division I level. Coach K's record climb preview, that's 6 Eastern on Friday, and then at 9 Eastern Friday night, Belmont and Duke. If Coach K wins that game, he'll be 1 away from tying, and of course he can tie it on ESPNU Saturday afternoon. Mike Krzyzewski trying to equal Bob Knight's record for career wins, and this is like Socrates and Plato, master and apprentice. Coach K was Bob Knight's point guard back at West Point.
It's an amazing situation that you have Coach K overtaking Coach Knight. I interviewed Mike Krzyzewski in the spring at a luncheon in Dallas, and I asked him, did you really want to go to West Point? And he said, no. Coach Knight was very persuasive. My mom and dad spoke Polish when they didn't want me to hear what they were saying. They went into the kitchen after Coach Knight left from West Point, and they started speaking, and it was blah, 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 Michael, blah, 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 stupid. So he kind of figured that they really wanted him to go to West Point. He didn't want to go. It turned out, he said to me, best decision of his life. The influence Bob Knight had on his career as a coach and as a player, it's come full circle, and it'll probably come full circle early in the season as he passes Coach Knight.
Yeah, and I know Bob Knight certainly will be happy for Mike Krzyzewski as he'll be chasing one of the great milestones in men's college basketball. Of course, Coach K trying to get Duke back in the mix of things. They just won a title 2 years ago. They have some turnover. The ACC was down last year. You know, if you want to say the ACC doesn't have depth this year, fine. But at the top, they probably have far and away the best team in the country.
Well, you got
on paper.
North Carolina is the best team in the ACC and one of the couple best teams in the country. Duke's going to be interesting, Anish, because remember, you know, you're going to have a young backcourt. Seth Curry's not really a point guard. But when you talk North Carolina, Harrison Barnes at the end of last season really started to get in a groove. You could say he was helped by Kendall Marshall, but more importantly, he gained his confidence back. He made big shots. This is a guy that shot over 50% in the last 4 minutes of games and had 2 buzzer beaters late in the year. He has become what we all thought he would be when he arrived at Carolina.
Barnes, Henson, Zeller, that's an NBA front line, isn't it?
But it doesn't go without Kendall Marshall. He's the most important player on that team because they're only pure point guard, and Kendall Marshall has as good a vision passing the ball as anybody in college basketball.
When he took over for Larry Drew, that's what turned around North Carolina's season a year ago. Second game on ESPNU, Valpo, Arizona, starts now.